may have somewhat answered this already in terms of just not planning enough, but are there areas where people habitually end up spending more than they need to?
I think for some reason in digital visual effects, and partly because it's a very young business, constantly evolving, there's a lot of ignorance. And a lot of it, I've been in meetings with high-level execs, and even Nick, who's been very experienced at it, will openly admit he doesn't understand everything that's going on, even though he's around it all the time. And I think I've been in meetings where people have baffled people from other companies with science and stuff, and people don't like to admit they don't know what they're talking about. So there's often the nod, oh yeah, I get that. And then later they don't get that. But at every level. So I mean, I did a job recently where they thought they were making a saving by not having anybody on set because they didn't want to pay their hotel bill, their flight, their per diems. And believe it or not, experienced filmmakers, do we really need somebody? Oh, sorry, I'm just going to do an American accent. I'm going to stop. Do we really need somebody on set for this job? And you were like, yeah, you do. And you know what? When we're not on set, tracking shots that then end up with zooms on that are untrackable for the CG environment that they're paying for, just causes a world of pain and expense later on. Now, someone's going to take it, and it's not always the client, Adam. Believe it or not. When you work hard to get your work to a certain level of finesse. But someone's going to take it, and it's either the client or the company. So, yeah, planning and learning and being open to saying, and it's hard to ask to justify it and explain. You need someone on set because it's going to go horribly wrong, potentially. I think everyone thinks they'll know where to put the green screen, for example. And you'd be surprised. The green screen should go behind the door, not in front of them. I mean, it's just that simplistic thing. Anyway, sorry, I'll be quiet.
I'm surprised at the amount of decisions that are changed or completely reversed halfway through the post-production. And a good example is years ago I worked on The Golden Compass, and we had a number of computer-generated talking polar bears in that film. And the work was in earnest. We were animating away, and the voice actor for the lead character was changed. And I think the notion was, well, you've made the character, we can just put the new voice in. But that's animation that has to be completely thrown out the window and done all over again, which is months of work. And it's generally quite shocking to be sitting there and working, and then to go, nope, this has changed. We're doing this completely differently. And you're like, well, the film's been shot. This is a bit late in the day to be making that decision.
There are places where people are habitually, and I think generally Hollywood's renowned for this, just constantly overspending all the time. And for people like ourselves at the sharp end, the question you bring up, Adam, is how do they change these things halfway through? For me, it's inconceivable. I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. But that's what's interesting is that you learn from working in a corporate structure. If you're working in advertising, as Will and I both have in our youth, that decisions when they're made by a boardroom of 20 people sitting around, suddenly the guy from the French distributor goes, well, you can't do that. And then you start making these decisions that are completely ridiculous and have nothing to do with the story. And I think that what's happened over the years is you've got on very big machines, you've got big movies, they become like big machines. You've got all these different divisions, and they all seem to be wanting to try to protect their own purity. So you've got the camera department, who they want to do everything as a purist, and you've got your production designer wants to build everything and doesn't want to do any CGI extension or whatever. And they're all slightly at odds. So I think it's desperately important that both the producer and the director have to act as a force over all of the departments to bring them together so that they're talking together and they don't see themselves in opposition, but they see themselves creating something holistically together. And I think if you do that, you can achieve amazing things. And one of the things that I see constantly done, not even talking about visual effects, for instance, and I've employed this philosophical point on Jonathan Strange, is people go off and build enormous backlot sets. And I build this huge backlot set, and then what happens is they're forced, because of economy, to keep going back and shooting on the backlot set, because you don't build a huge backlot set and do 3 shots. You build a huge backlot set and you shoot on it day after day after day. And I challenge anybody to look at any of those films that have built one of those enormous backlot sets and go, well, hang on a second, I just feel like I keep coming back to the same area. And one of the things that we did on Jonathan Strange is we built a very small street for Threadneedle Street. And what we did is we spent money, instead of we built a street for about 20,000 quid, and what we then did is we extended that street very cleverly at the back and at the front, and then we did a few wide shots on green screen so that your journey has a beginning, middle, and an end, so that you're always sort of setting up different environments, and suddenly you feel that you've created a world. So I think what's interesting is clever use of your money and how you tell your story is just going to make it feel so much bigger. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune at all. Effects have helped me enormously in that way. And you probably saw it, Norrell's journey to London. There are some huge vistas of people going across bridges and fabulous archways and London life. And we did them as a throwaway one shot, which you would never do if you had a backlot set. You'd keep coming back to that over and over and over again.
Bex as well, because, do the performance captures get changed as much? Is there as much going back and completely rethinking it halfway through?
What I was going to add on to there is maybe compared to these guys, my career is a lot shorter, and what I was going back to is the relationships between people on set and the artists, and the saving money sort of it. And I've been incredibly lucky to have worked on some really big budget stuff, and again, the sort of they just want it all. They just want, bring the best tech that you've got, design something bespoke because we need it to be like this. And maybe a lot of the time they spend a lot of money using performance capture to go, it's okay, we'll just get the animator to do it instead. And I'm just like, well, okay, it doesn't offend me in any way, as long as they're happy with it. But it's sort of like it's best use of practice. If you know that this technology is going to be the best possible way to get what you need to do, then use it. If it's not, then don't. To save money, it's best practice. And creativity in technology as well, I think, is a very important thing to save money. And I think that's a good thing in film, and especially in independent film. If you just get creative with your technology, you can get the big things. And if you get someone who is a visual effects artist, as I say, just one of them on your set, it could just save you so much more money later down the line, even if it's just simple things like tracking and match moving and, just the simple shots, indie film. And I think you'll never find a visual effects artist that goes, no, I don't want to be on the set of your film. That's a thing. We love what we do. And we're just as much as an artist as a filmmaker, and we will do things for free as well, as filmmakers do as well. We don't like to, and we should, but yeah. But I think everyone's driven by their passion, and as an artist, you are driven by your passion, and so saving money just comes down to getting someone who likes doing what they do, know how they're going to do it, and along with the plan and being creative with your technologies is always a thing I like to do.